Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of ThinkTank Thursday. I'm Candy Kelly, and I'm thrilled to be with you this week. Thank you for coming. Before we begin, we want to thank our ThinkTank sponsors, Simnox, Roller, Delta Strike, Betson Distributing, BMI Merchandise, Expert Hosiery, and Embed, which is where our guest is from this week. We appreciate all of our sponsors' support, which helps us offer you new episodes each week. So we know that TrainerTainment likes to take a break from all of the doing and spend some time thinking on Thursdays. And today we will be thinking with John Keys from Embed Card. John is over North America, South America for regional sales, and anyone who's been in this industry for a while has seen John at the numerous shows that he's attended. He's always out and about, whether attending trade shows or visiting clients. He also is a regular of ThinkTank Thursday. So let's jump in and see how we can grow today with John Keys. John, welcome to ThinkTank Thursday. For those out there in our audience who has not had the pleasure of meeting you, which I'm not sure who that would be, why don't you take just a second and introduce yourself and your role at Embed before we jump in today.
Perfect. Hey, Candy. My name is John Keys. I'm the regional sales manager for Embed, covering North and South America. And I've been with Embed for about 10 years and have been in the hospitality industry for, I don't even want to say it, 30 years. So really excited to be here and excited to be part of ThinkTank Thursday.
We always love having you. You always bring such a wealth of information. And today we're going to talk about some of the basics, but also with an emphasis, I feel like, on cashless a little bit there. So I know that Embed's put a lot of technology in the past couple of years in mobile wallet and just removing the friction between playing the games and the consumer. And so you have some, you've probably had some case studies and some data points. So what are some of the big key benefits you're seeing about using a cashless arcade card system in family entertainment centers?
Well, I think at first, when you're talking about any type of technology, especially point of sale technology, cashless payments, card systems, you're really looking about systems and controls. And how do you make sure you're managing and make sure you're accounting for all of the money? That's the reason that we first started back in the 1800s with cash registers, because you wanted to control the cash. So I think with card systems, we're doing the same things. We want to make sure that you have the right systems and controls in place, but it's also looking at ways to help enhance the guest experience while, again, controlling costs and driving more revenue to the bottom line. So I think the real advantage when you're looking at card systems is how do you build in flexibility and those controls. So probably one of the biggest things is being able to dynamically change prices when you need to, so that maybe you're on a Tuesday, you want to reduce the price because it's a little bit slower, or on a Thursday you want to give benefits to maybe a certain group of people or to everyone with maybe increasing tickets or reducing the cost of the prizes in the redemption area. That's an incentive to draw people in. But then you can look at weekends, or maybe it's like a special time where you've got an in-service day, or that you may want to look at increasing your prices. And if you look at restaurants and theaters and everything else, they often do different pricing on their peak times. And that's an opportunity because people are willing to spend more. They know they're going to spend more if they go out on a Friday or Saturday night. And then maybe on a Tuesday night, if they want to look at that value, they can go at a discount. So it's really having that flexibility to be able to change pricing and offer different incentives for your guests.
I want to back up and talk about this word cashless, because I think it has taken on some different levels of definition. And so just to talk about those different levels a bit, because there's one thing of cashless of people, there may be some arcades still out there. I'm sure there are. They're still on tokens that have not yet moved to a card system.
Yep.
And then there's the next level of cashless where you don't sell as many cards from like a front desk where they're going and there's a whole it's more of a kiosk or the phone that we have on us through
Right.
the wallet. So can you talk just a little bit about the different levels of that term? Because you were hearing cashless a lot lately, but exactly what
Right.
do we mean by it?
Well, and like you say, cashless takes on a little bit of different role. In the simplest sense, it's removing cash from the transactions, because trying to managing cash is significantly more expensive. If you think about it,
Wait a
if
minute,
you
can you
had
say
to,
that again? Because I think we are sometimes like punishing people for using cash or or using like we're punishing people for using card a lot of times,
right.
saying that cash is cheaper due to transaction fees or whatever the thing, and we are forgetting all of the things that I know that you're about to list that go into the expense of
Yeah.
operating with cash.
Well, I think one thing that's happened in our industry, you've been hearing a lot about whether it's um, convenience fees with credit cards, or dual pricing, or discounts for cash or incentive. Because on the surface, people are looking at saying, "Wow, I'm paying 3 or 3.5% to process credit cards," and that's right in your face every month. You see the statements and you see that amount, and so they're, I think, kind of looking for a silver bullet to say, oh, if we just charge our customers that, everything will be fine. So I'll get to control those costs. The challenge with that is that, like you said, it's more expensive to manage cash. You have to count all the tills every time. You have to account for banks, and banks are sometimes charging more money to do cash. And then there's the security, not only with cash or tokens that you have to polish, that you have to count, that you have to track. And then I was surprised. I remember at Foundations, they were talking about how do you manage all the tickets? And when the tickets are redeemed, you have garbage bags full of tickets. How do you destroy them so somebody doesn't go into, let's say, the garbage, pull out those tickets and bring them in again? How are you managing? So all of that comes around to, we're trying to look as far as controlling costs, but I think and you hit it on the head, we're penalizing customers when they're using the cards. But we know that from other industries and even from our own, credit card processing represents 60 to 80, sometimes 90% of, because nobody's carrying cash anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important. And that's in a lot of stuff that we'll be talking about today. It's looking at what you're going to do, and does it make sense for your customers? We don't want to penalize customers. If you think about charging that fee and you say, okay, well, we can get by with it, and if I go to the local mini mart, they charge it. So if I go to the gas station, I have a different price for cash versus card. That's understandable. But if you look at going to restaurants, I mean, you have to ask yourselves, if you go to restaurants, are they charging more to use a credit card? And is that case, what do you feel about that? And maybe I'm not going to leave the restaurant right now, but the next time I go out, it's like, do I really want to pay that extra amount?
Mm-hmm.
And there's other ways to do that. If you think about the price of a hamburger is not $12. You build in your fixed cost, you build in your variable costs to cover that. You look at charging tax for to customers because they know they're paying tax for everything, and they already don't like the government anyway. So you get to bring that in. That's what I think you need to look at when you're making decisions for your business, is how is it going to affect the guests? How is it going to help me drive more money to the bottom line? But that, you got to have that balance.
Thank you for that. We have always
Excuse
aligned
me.
in how we view the cashless, the way trends towards cashless, and if using cash versus card. And so I do think it's just something that people, you're right. The fees aren't in their face. Like a credit card, I have to open that credit card statement every single month and I have to look at like
Right.
the total amount. The time that someone takes to put together a deposit or to count tills is wrapped into labor hours, which is kind of just, decode, it's hidden.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Also, I think one other thing to think about is to realize there are certain regulations. Visa and MasterCard, American Express are, again, we know that their focus is on the customer, the end user. And a lot of times our customers are paying for all of those fees or the signature card or the cashback card. But they're also going to control, there's certain requirements of saying you cannot discount, you can only discount for cash. You have to charge of saying, here's our price. And if you're going to use cash, we're going to discount it. So it's not like I'm not going to add on a fee to credit cards. So you got to watch, and it's by state
Oh, I
and
wasn't
nationally.
aware of
It
that.
can be. So you really have to look and see what the requirements are. Obviously, Visa and MasterCard are international, but
Mhm.
you have to look and say, what are the new rules that are coming up? Are there any regulations, whether it's nationally or statewide?
Very interesting. I remember when they changed all the rules with gift cards way back in the day, and that's going to tell you how long I've been in operations. But and before you could just take the money and like from gift cards and be like, oh well, they didn't use them, so I'm just going to take that money away. And then states put the regulations in place. It's like, no, they've already paid for it. You've got to have it in a holding. Some states require it to stay in a holding account for up to 20 years, like all different types of things. So
Well, then that brings up an interesting point of whether you do cash versus credits. Because, and then that's, and again, important to talk to your accountant, to find out what the requirements are for the state. If you convert, let's say, 20 or $50 into credits, then you look and say from an accounting standpoint, is that considered uh, revenue and the float? Or if you convert it to credits, does that mean that if they don't spend all of those credits, are you paying, how are you paying the taxes on it? It's that float that comes in. So that's an important, when we look at, again, cashless systems, when we talked about systems and controls, we want to understand what's the impact of doing that. And again, that's a whole nother discussion that we can have for another think tank
that is
of
really interesting.
cash versus credits.
That's really
And
interesting because I also know that people have a lot of questions about how you convert the number of credits for, like, let's say $1 and like what that all looks like. But I'd never thought about the accounting aspect of, it's not saying you have a $5. Yes, you purchased a game card with $5, but it gave you 45 credits versus I have $5 on this game card.
yeah, and that really comes down to, from an accounting standpoint, how are you tracking that revenue? Um, if you're doing it where, and a lot of people do that, where you will put, as we're talking about cashless, am I doing cashless just for the arcade, or am I doing cashless for the food and beverage, for bowling, for all of the attractions? And so in that case, now we talk from an accounting standpoint, we have to think about deferred revenue. So if I put $50 on a card, not all of that revenue is going to go towards, let's say, the arcade.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you need to then look as far as deferred revenue and the float. And from an accounting standpoint, how are we tracking that? How do you recognize that revenue and minimize as far as your tax liability?
Very interesting. All right, I'm writing down a future think tank right now, so we get into that. Um, Next thing I want to ask is about a lot of the systems are, you see a lot of cloud-based systems, but there are still server-based systems out there. How do cloud-based systems and on-premise systems, what are the pros and cons, or what are the questions you should be asking yourself, especially if you're considering managing, cashless payments?
Right. Well, and I think that the cloud is kind of the latest trend, or we've been
And the
talking
fear of
about that for
everybody
a
is
long
that it's
time.
gonna go down on Saturday at 2 p.m., right? Like that's everyone's
Correct.
biggest fear.
Right. Well, and the cloud is good for certain things when you're roaming cards between locations, when you're tracking customer information that you want to share between, when you want reporting and you want to be able to access it on your phone or otherwise. That's all tools that are very effective when you're utilizing the cashless, when you're utilizing the cloud. Then if you do everything on premise, then what you have is you have that redundancy built in, you have that strength. But then when you're trying to run reports, maybe you have to connect remotely, or you have to have something emailed to you, and so you have to look at kind of the balances, and we've taken an approach of a hybrid structure, and that's an interesting thing, because you don't have to do, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Again, when we're looking at it, we have to balance the cost and the benefit. So at Embed, what we've decided is that we want to have on-premise servers for the transactions. We want to have backups and redundancy for the transactions so that, again, if you have a problem on a Saturday, like if the internet goes down, if you lose that connection, because it does happen,
Mhm.
that your business is not, the system does not shut down. You also have to look at that if you are very busy on a Friday and you're dealing with that pipe that goes into the internet, that heavy traffic can slow down transactions, it can slow down processing. So I think it's important to look at balancing and leveraging the tools. And that's why we kind of adopted this hybrid structure. We're looking at reporting, we're looking at with central report, mobile wallet, bookings, those are all based in the cloud. But when we're looking at the core system, what's running your readers, what's running your operations, we want to make sure that you have that redundancy built in. And I think that gives you the best of both worlds.
Um, I did not actually realize there was a good hybrid solution out there. So that's kind of interesting. I think that most people talk about it as in everything in the cloud, or I have to have like this server here, and did not actually even think about a mix of the two there.
Yeah. I think, and that's important rather than looking for the simple. I don't say some answers are simple,
Mhm.
but sometimes you have to look at that and really investigate of saying, what's the cost benefit? And I think that's important in everything that we do. We want to make sure that we're doing that.
Um, Speaking of cost benefit, jumping right in, um,
Excuse me.
I'm in the market for a new card system, whether I'm moving off of what I was using before, or I'm unsatisfied with where I am, or just I feel limited by the features that my current card system has. What
Right.
are some things that you really push operators to evaluate and to think about as they are looking at the different choices that are out there?
That's interesting because we started going out and visiting customers and doing, well, we've always done that, but we just kind of have done that more, where we're going out and we're approaching them from an operational standpoint, because that's at the core. When Embed started, we started to solve a problem for a sister company that was an FEC. So we're always looking at ways of how do you improve operations? How do we drive more money to the bottom line? So we started looking and making recommendations like, again, how are you pricing out your cards? And what's the average, what's your sweet spot? What do most people buy? And then you say, okay, how can we look at taking somebody, let's say if you're $20 your most popular card,
Mhm.
how can we move those customers offering greater value that they could go to 25 or $30? So if you spend a little bit more, you're going to get bonus. You're going to get some bonus credits. Now, on the flip side, what I don't recommend, one of the things I don't recommend, do not give bonus on a $5 and $10 card. They're already going to spend that. And why do you want to give them bonus for what they're already going to do? Our goal is we want to drive them a little bit more to a higher spend. And so, bless you for doing for doing, let's say, $100 cards, nobody buys them. So we want to look at how do we maximize the revenue on the kiosk screen or on the point of sale screen, et cetera. We found by doing that, you can have a significant increase, because if you offer, let's say, $20 to $50, that's too big of a jump. If you put $30 in there, how is that going to increase that revenue? That's just one aspect. And it was interesting. So we'd go back and we start talking with existing customers, because when you start using the system, you're only using, let's say, 10%. Well,
Mhm.
what are new functionality you can incorporate in? But then we decided, we keep going back to customers and saying, have you thought about this after they're open for 2 years? We're now offering a kind of a little bit of a consulting where we say, as you look at building your system, here's some things to think about. Here's some tools that you may look at. And we talk, like when we're talking about with the credit cards, how are we going to make sure we're covering our costs? Are we going to charge tax? Are we going to charge for cards? And we like to do, if you're going to charge for cards, you need to give the guests some benefit. We don't want to penalize, but that's a huge opportunity. If you think about, if you go through $20,000 or 2,500 cards and
Mhm.
25,000 cards in a year, if you're charging a dollar or two, that means that you're driving, like say, $50,000 to the bottom line.
Have you
But you
seen
need,
that charging for the cards increases the return of the card, like recycling of the cards or reuse of the cards?
yes, that's
Okay.
great. That's great. I was going, God,
Oh,
you've done this. Um, Yeah, because people see, they see that there's greater value in that card. They keep that card, and that card is your brand. And if you're giving bonus credit, so that for the guest, let's say, but then rather than buying that $50 card, they're going to spend $52, but they're getting $52 in value. To the guests, they don't care. But if you look back at, again, what do restaurants do when they're charging, when they offering appetizers and dessert and coffee? It's increasing the average check. So now you're saying for every new card purchase, I'm going to increase it by $2. That's a significant revenue opportunity, and you build into the guests that there's no negative for them, and they say, wow, I spent $2. I'm going to keep this card. Maybe I'm going to register it. I'm going to use my phone to track that. It's all things that we can look as far as driving more money to the bottom line.
you in that description, you talked about how when people first started with a system, any system, they probably are using 10 to 15% of what the capabilities are. And sometimes and need to be reminded of what other functionalities are on the system. So what are, most recently, what are some of the functionalities that have really had a benefit that you think operators should explore in their current systems to boost revenue? Or because I'm not always just about boosting revenue, we got to make sure the experience goes with it, or enhancing the
Mhm.
guest experience by like decreasing friction and
Yeah.
be better.
Well, I think the first thing, and I know TrainerTainment does this. I know that a lot of different groups, Bets and Player One, everyone will do like newsletters or information. And that idea is just constantly bringing new ideas to your customers and getting them to think a little bit differently. One of my favorite books is The Challenger Sale, uh, and it challenges people to think differently and to approach things differently. Um, and I think that's important. I think you need to be talking with your vendor partner, and that's I don't like to be considered a vendor. I want to be a partner. Um, excuse me. And in looking and saying, what are ways that I can improve operations? So simple things like I love doing upselling on the kiosk and the point of sale. That's something that you need to do. Looking at your pricing, and maybe every 9 to 12 months that you evaluate that. Make sure that we're maximizing that revenue. Bounce back offers, I love. And I always like to say that my granddaughters have used them with me very effectively after a birthday party, saying, Papa, we need to go back to the location because of this. So it's all of these are little ideas, and little ideas can have a huge impact on that idea. It's not just revenue and cost control, but it is looking, you can say by spending a little bit more, you're going to get greater value. And if you as a parent, you're always looking at how do I maximize the fun with what I'm spending. And I think we did something that I'm going to date myself. That I don't know if you remember, David Letterman used to do like the top 10
Yes.
things. Well, we came up with the top 25 uh, features or functions of the system that not many people utilize. And I went to our training team, our installation team, our support team, all the tech people, and I said, okay, what are some cool features and functions that people aren't using? And they came with their list. And so it's been an interesting, it brings up a point that I think people need to challenge their vendor partner to and listen to say, what are some options that are available? And then you evaluate that with what, how does that fit with my customer base? Will they appreciate that? Will that help them? And that's where you kind of look that in. And little things, a lot of these, the cool thing about this is a lot of the features and functions that we're talking about is already in the system. So it doesn't cost you anything to make those changes, but can have a significant impact in your bottom line.
Makes sense. All my clients always challenge them because when you get a new system, it's so overwhelming. There's so much to set up. There's so much to learn. Even if you're transitioning from an older system to this one, you got to make sure all that goes seamlessly. It can be overwhelming. And so you get to know what you need to know
Right.
to function. That's
Yeah.
priority number one. Let's function. But there's no growth in the comfortable. There's no way of improving the guest experience or, increasing our revenue or decreasing our cost if we're just happy being where we just learned. And so once you're comfortable with that level, I always tell my clients, like, go back to your client and be like, okay, your vendor, like, what else? I got this down. I'm good here. Now what can I do?
Yes.
And you're comfortable with that, and then keep pushing that boundary until you're fully utilizing the tool. You're paying for it. You just said it costs no extra to use some of these functionalities.
Well, and I think it's also what you can do is asking them, like, what else should we do? I'm sure they have ideas. The other point is you want to describe to your vendor partners of saying, here's some challenges that we're facing. Is there a way to approach this? And the reason I'm asking, translate it that way, don't come and say, well, you can, but don't necessarily come and say, I want to do this. You can say, here's the problem, or here's the issue we're trying to resolve. And then you look at a collaborative way of how can they leverage what they currently already have within the system to help you achieve the results. Sometimes I've had people say, I want to do this. And I say, okay, well, then what are you going to do with that once you have it? Oh, then we're going to put it in here. So begin with the end in mind, that we want to look and say, I'm trying to solve this problem. Let's collaborate and figure out how can we do that without having to try and develop a new functionality. Let's leverage what we have. And I think that's important to build in, because then you're going to get better, faster results. And also maybe get some new ideas that you didn't think about.
My favorite vendor partner is our Zoho expert, that we have to use for our functionality inside TrainerTainment. I don't use arcade cards, but every time I'm like, hey, I want to do this. He's like, tell me what the end, why do you want to do that? What information are you trying to get in me? Like, he'll always stop me and be like, tell me more about where it is we're going, why you want to do one step. And usually he'll always get me to where I want to go, but it's never the thing that I came and said, I want that. I want to do this.
Right.
We can actually do it this way, and that integrates more components of your CRM. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Right. Well, I like that when you're dealing with a partner and you come by and you go, wow, every time I talk with this person, they give me more information. And that's really looking about as far as how do you leverage your partnerships.
Tell me a little bit about the Success Squad and what it is to be doing and where this was born out of.
Well, the Success Squad is a new team that we've built really to focus with our existing customers on looking at ways to better leverage some of the tools that are available. And it's some of the tools that are new to our industry, but aren't necessarily new to other industries, the larger hospitality community, et cetera. And it's really leveraging some of the core tools as far as our mobile wallet, our stats reporting, and then bookings. These are new technologies. These are new tools that we're looking at that were brought to the market. And it's all as part of what we learned in working with some of our partners with like Amazon Web Services, Google, and Apple. We came to them with some ideas of saying, how do we help our customers maximize revenue? How do we leverage the technology, the mobile wallet technology? Or everybody's using the mobile phone. How do we leverage that to make it easier for people to reload cards and gather information? So the purpose of the Success Squad is really to focus with not only existing customers, but with new customers leveraging this technology. And how can we not only sell it to them, but help them implement it? And with training that we'll go through, and we'll do the initial setup. Then we'll actually go out. We've got group within the success squad, which is called the Go Train. And what they do is they will actually go out to customer locations. They'll do virtual sessions to train all the team members on how do you present, let's say it was mobile wallet technology, to your guests. How do you do an incentivize to make sure they understand it? So the simple thing is that they'll do a training session. The next day they'll actually be working with the teams live, and they'll say, on a busy Thursday or a Saturday, you're going to go, hey, is everybody that's standing in line to go to the kiosk who's just looking to reload? Here, come over here to the VIP line, and I'm going to show you how you can register your card and be able to reload. So they're trying to do some real world things to help people. And there's a lot of free marketing tools, training tools, all of that's available. And this is all ties into fun book that I'm reading, The Membership Economy. It's talking about how do you build a long-term relationship with your guests as part of this membership by being part of, let's say, by registering your card, and you see that greater value, that you're constantly going to get updates, and maybe you're going to get bonuses, you're going to get benefits. We think about, when you think about loyalty, and I always think about like Starbucks. Starbucks are masters at how they're marketing. Everything is on with their phone. And so all of this is looking at ways, how do we help our customers better utilize the tools that are available? And it's a fun group. We're bringing groups in. We've got, and this is a little strange, we've got two people that are like credit card gurus to help people analyze their statements, and saying, we're not promoting any one credit card processor. We work with almost all of them, but it's not just about fees, and there are some crazy fees that the credit card companies use, but it's also about looking at the mix of cards and looking at that, where you can maybe make small changes that can reduce those costs. And so we call them credit card gurus, because they'll look at that. And we've had sometimes of saying, if we go with another credit card processor, you're going to reduce cost. But we've also had an equal number of groups where we say, you're fine where you are. You just validated that you're in a good place. And I think that's at the core, that's what the Success Squad is that we're really looking to help our customers be more successful. And that's it. That's the fun part of what we do, because then it's not a new game, but it's helping people achieve their dreams, because they're starting this business. They want to be successful. We're trying to help them.
So how do you back in the Success Squad? Do you have a bat signal or something?
Yes, there's that light that goes up. You can contact, if you talk to anybody within the Embed team, whether it's your salesperson, support, installation, etc., they can get you in contact with the Success Squad. They're at all of the events. And again, leveraging social media. It's good to sign up and track what's going on with Embed, what's going on with your other partners. Because I'm looking at Facebook and LinkedIn. TrainerTainment does it. You're doing ThinkTank Thursday. Why are you doing ThinkTank Thursday? You're trying to provide your customers and the overall industry with insights and new ideas. So there's a lot of information, and you can get contact to the Success Squad by shooting an email out, doing a chat, or contacting. Again, you can contact me. I'll get you in contact with them.
I'll take care of it.
But the bat signal, I kind of like that. I'm going to present that to them. Maybe we have that.
I know this think tank could go on forever, because I know that I don't want my audience to feel like I'm jumping over where John made reference to data multiple times in this interview, and how do you
Yep.
leverage that? There is another Think Tank Thursday with Embed called The Story of Data, and it
Yep.
is with Cash.
Yeah.
And you can find that on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, which is the only reason I didn't ask John to dive deeper, is because that episode is out there. And so I just want to direct our audience that if you're wondering, like, what data points will tell me what new functionality to use or what I should do in that think tank dives a little bit deeper into that to at least give you some clarity into what questions you should be asking your vendor partner about the data points that you're looking at. So, all right, it's time for signature question, and it's been a little while since I've had you on here. So, and you've already mentioned 2 books, so I'm going to take that from your answer. Like, you can't tell me those 2 books. So, what else are you doing to grow yourself right now?
You're you're gonna laugh at this. I've started to a new workout. And I started this with one of my granddaughters because we wanted to find an activity for her. And so we decided to do a capoeira, Brazilian kind of martial dance
Okay.
uh, involvement. And then me at 60 had this brilliant idea that, oh, I should do that too, because I used to do martial arts like when I was in college. And so at looking at enhancing myself and building that in is I started getting into a little bit more structured workout routine. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been painful at times because I've pulled almost every muscle in my body. And it was usually doing when I was trying to help out like the kids class
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't warmed up enough, and I pulled my hamstring or something like that. So the instructor told me, "You're no longer allowed to practice with the kids." But it's been a great opportunity to uh, do further connection with my granddaughter. It's been great for me. I know that I think Beth has been doing kind of a new workout routine, and she's posting her journey, which I think is great. And so that's probably been one of the biggest things that I've done in getting into it. And just to let you know, I'm not pulling muscles as much anymore, so
That's all.
I'm doing
Every
better.
day's a little bit better. Look at these memories you're building with your granddaughter too. That's so precious.
Yeah. Well, and I think it comes down to how do we this is our industry. And you think about it, is that we are involved with families and kids. And we were talking earlier about kind of what are some of the challenges that you're facing as a working mom and all that. And that brings up an opportunity we could talk about with, let's say, with our industry, as far as if we're looking at camps and how do you help working parents, that you make sure that you have timelines that help during working hours.
Yep.
Yep. But I think it all it all comes down to, I think we've got to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. We are in the business of fun. Sometimes I think we take things too seriously. But continue doing that, continue your learning. I've always said that books on tape, learning tools that are available, I think are important. And then just making sure that you're connecting with people and asking questions.
Well, I love that answer. You'll have to show me some of your moves that you've learned the next time I see you.
I haven't been able to do a cartwheel yet, so
Well, again, thank you for your time. If people want to connect with you or learn more, where would you send them?
you can always email me at john@embedcard.com. You can also check on the website, and also I'm old school. I still do LinkedIn LinkedIn is good. Facebook, my kids say is old school, but I always try and post things on LinkedIn and Facebook about customers and what they're doing with things. So anytime, you can always connect with me, social media, or you can also go to embedcard.com.
All right. Well, thank you, John, for making time to this week.
Thanks, Candy. And again, thank you so much for your partnership with Embed and for what you do with the industry. I think TrainerTainment is a tremendous resource that I think people need to leverage. You bring a lot of resources and perspectives.
Wasn't that a great interview with John Keys? He always brings so many insights and so much information to Think Tank Thursday. It's why he's one of our favorite guests. So be sure to check out and reconnect with him, John Keys at Embed Card, to ask any questions about the Success Squad, mobile wallet, or any of the other key items that we discussed in this interview today. Again, thank you to my 2024 Think Tank sponsors. We love them. And as always, if you have a Think Tank idea, want to be a guest on Think Tank, or want to sponsor a Think Tank episode, please feel free to contact me, Candy at TrainerTainment.net, and we can talk about it. Also, be sure to check out where you can connect with TrainerTainment in real life. All of our upcoming events and appearances can be found at TrainerTainment.net under our events menu, so check that out. And then, as always, my beautiful audience, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Remember, the journey to success is all about growth, and here at TrainerTainment, we are committed to helping you, helping your company, helping your people grow and thrive. So visit TrainerTainment.net to learn about how we can support your growth journey. And until next time, keep learning and keep growing.